Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I really want to talk about how to derive more significance from our life and our relationships. So this is something that I notice all individuals have. It's literally one of our six basic human needs. But when we talk about this concept or idea, you know, our basic needs can be met in different levels or different forms. And this is something I've observed amongst many people. And I find that there's this correlation, not cause, but correlation between attachment style individuals who are insecurely attached and them often seeking their basic need for significance in less healthy forms. Now, this isn't always the case, but we can definitely level up our relationship to this need by being clear about the different forms in which this exists. And if we find ourselves seeking unhealthy versions or forms, we can literally level up. And this will have not just a massive impact on our lives as people, but also on our relationships in general. So I do find that there's a bit of a correlation first and foremost with the hierarchy of basic needs between attachment styles. I would say that from relationships specifically, anxious, preoccupied are the most likely to seek significance. They want to feel like loved, adored, valued, like they are getting attention, approval, things like that from their relationships. And again, the need for significance is not bad or good. It's a basic need for everybody. But the way in which we get it can fill our bucket in a healthy way and also in a way that we feel in control of, because at the end of the day, realistically, we don't actually have control if people give us approval or not. But we can do things to create significance in our life that gives us internal control. An example of this would be creating purpose in our lives, creating meaning in our lives, which are also forms of seeking significance. If we feel like we have purpose and meaning, we naturally feel a greater sense of significance over our lives. So what I want to sort of share with you here is, anxious, preoccupied tend to seek that. I'll tell you the different levels, and then I'll tell you which different attachment styles tend to seek it the most. So I would say level one, like the most unhealthy, indirect, out of our control way of seeking significance is through things like approval of others, attention from others. And you'll sometimes see people seek significance when they're not getting attention in positive ways. They seek it in negative ways, right? They'll try to, you can think of like the little kid in class growing up where like they, would kind of cause a ruckus and maybe get in trouble, but you could tell sort of that that's their way of getting attention. And that's their way of getting a need met. If they're not getting enough attention overall, then we'll go about it in an unhealthy way. Then you can also think of significance as being like power over other people, like trying to control others, trying to like have the most power or have the most money so we can control other people in their lives. And not that everybody who's seeking money or empowerment do it in that way, but that's just an example to illustrate this specific thing. And the other thing is specialness. I've seen a lot of people over the years, and this is very common, for example, amongst like narcissistic personalities. And literally one of the components in the DSM for narcissists talks about like seeking ideal love or ideal relationships or the ideal life. And I've actually had clients in my practice who were narcissists and came in for a number of different reasons over the years. And there's quite a few I can think of who would literally talk about relationships in a way that they would say, it's the perfect love. Nobody has a love like ours. Nobody can compare to this. This is, and there's that sense of like you can hear that desperate need for significance sort of in that undertone of the person describing the relationship. Like it may be a great relationship or you might be really happy, but like there could also be other people who love in that way or have love like that. And you can't really know. So just you can hear that specialness component. And sometimes people will create these concepts and ideas. Not everybody who does this is narcissistic by any means. That was just one analogy in a more extreme version. But sometimes we'll hear people seek out that significance through things like, in terms of the specialness, um, through things like thinking about how special they are or their uniqueness in a special way that nobody can compare to. And, like we all absolutely have unique, beautiful, special things, but it's not just one person that has unique, beautiful, special things. It's all of us who have unique, special qualities about us. And it's not, the specialness from like a superiority perspective is where it can sort of be unhealthy, right? And special because we all are unique and wonderful and special, but all of us, not one person or a set of people more than other people. So you can hear some of that in like a specific undertone as well. So that's like one, you can think of that as like level one, kind of like the lowest level of seeking significance. I'm not saying these things are bad. If you find yourself having traces of these things, that's normal because you're a human being and you're always going to. But what I am saying is that these things are probably not going to be the most fulfilling version of getting these needs met. And think of like the example of an anxious attachment individual, somebody anxiously attached. If you're seeking your specialness through your relationship, your attention from your relationship, approval from your relationship, the moment there's a problem with the relationship, it feels like death to the sense of self, because literally our needs comprised at a subconscious level are part of our subconscious identity, our sense of self. And so when that's taken away, it feels like this big identity crisis. So think of that as like level one. Now, level two are like healthier versions of these things where we have more control. Often we can communicate these needs directly in an acceptable and specific way, things like that. So these could be things like appreciation, acknowledgement, inclusion, encouragement, or to be seen and heard. Okay, so these are like, more grounded. We're more likely to seek appreciation as a healthy form. We can give ourselves appreciation in our life through practicing gratitude. We can ask for these things in relationships in a healthy manner. We can get ourselves involved in things like community where we have a little bit more control in a sense over the inclusion component, not completely, but a little bit more. We can initiate these things, and these needs aren't like exclusively dependent on our outside world, right? So you'll see a little bit more health there. And then our highest forms of significance are things like finding purpose in our lives, creating meaning in our lives, having a sense of direction in life through intentions or goal setting, creating self empowerment. So, finding out who we are, what our needs are, creating more power over ourselves, having more emotional regulation, all these different things. And as we do this and we deep dive into this, this is where we start to feel like, okay, this sense of ourself comes alive. Now, if you want to do a deep dive into this stuff, like a really deep dive, get all your clarity around these things really quickly in terms of what you need, how to create strategies for yourself, there's 2 courses in the school that are amazing for this. One is Discover, Embrace, and Fulfill Your Personal Needs. And number 2 is Strengthening Your Self-Identity. And it also helps when going through an identity crisis or a chronic identity crisis, feeling like you're displaced from your sense of self and your sense of self relies or depends on people outside of you. So really powerful move, really powerful thing to do. And when we look at these different needs and how we're getting them met, again, they're not bad or good, but there are some that are healthier than others, some that we have more control over others. Like you can create a purpose for your life. You can derive meaning from your life through purpose, goals, things you're doing that may contribute to other people, impact you're making in the world, a spiritual connection. If you believe in something greater than yourself, that gives life a sense of meaning. Like there's so many things that you can do to create that. And that is a very intrinsic thing. That's something that's very much rooted in your sense of self. Power over yourself and emotional regulation are things like you being able to realize that we sometimes seek power over others when we feel helpless or out of control, but really, ideally, the power we seek in the world comes from internal self control. It comes from our ability to be able to recognize our thoughts that are not helping us and reframe our perception or tell a different story or recognize the unmet needs we have and try to meet them in the healthiest way possible and observe our own patterns so that we have really optimal, healthy responses to our external circumstances and world. They're always growing us, nourishing us, helping us improve, helping us expand. And then ultimately, the more we do that over time, we start to have these systematic things in place at a subconscious level for how we deal with things. And then the outside world can be chaotic or difficult, but ultimately we have a lot more control over that because of how we know how to deal with those situations, what's best for us, because we've practiced, we found things that are tried, tested, and true for us over the years. And ultimately that gives you way more control and significance, and nobody can take that away from you. And there isn't a downside of trying to control other people and do things that are unhealthy in that process. So that's just like one example, but hopefully that makes a lot of sense. It's really important to recognize some of these patterns in our relationships and to see what we can do to update, to upgrade, or to become the healthiest version of ourselves possible. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. And that's all. Thank you.